Well, hello everyone, and first let me say how honoured and privileged I am to be invited by Julia and Annie to launch Before You Forget. I feel that I'm doing so on behalf of all the friends who have such a high regard for Julia, Annie and John. John was a long-standing member of the Fremantle Tennis Club and also a very good tennis player. Many of his former club members are here tonight as a tribute to John, Julia and Annie, who are well known to us all. Annie used to hang around the club from about the age of 5, while John played tennis and she would give us heaps of lip. We all know Alzheimer's is a terrible disease, and it struck John down in his prime. Within 5 years of diagnosis, he is now in full-time care and no longer able to recognise anyone or really communicate. However, I feel that John's presence is very strong here tonight. And if there's any doubt about that, you just have to look at Annie's paintings. And they capture John so beautifully. There are many great aspects of Before You Forget that will resonate with many of us, be it Julia's beautiful prose, the images various of Fremantle, the way in which she so cleverly captures the teenage female voice through Amelia in particular, the strength of character and resilience of Amelia, the fragile rock that is Lisa, her mum, the poignant images depicting the decline of her dad Simon, or the exploits of the rampaging Hector, the beloved Jack Russell. Well, beloved of Simon, and it was a bit more of a love-hate relationship with Amelia. But Before You Forget Hector is also the real-life Hector, an integral part of the lives of John, Annie and Julia in their home at Southlake. I had a few personal encounters with Hector. Well, perhaps more like full frontal charges when returning John home after tennis. In fact, Hector is the centre of many hilarious scenes in the book. And one aspect in particular of Before You Forget that I love is the pervasive humour, even if it is pretty black at times. In the short film that we will watch soon, Annie talks about John's being a social, witty, humorous, intellectual person. And I must say, I enjoyed our frequent chats about political issues and national and world events. I was reminded of this when Amelia returns home one day. Dad is sitting at the table. He has piles of books he's collected from second-hand bookshops over the years. Huge books with hard covers and shiny jackets. A lot of them have the word complete in them. The complete book of Australian birds. The complete book of Western Australian native plants. The complete Beatles. The complete book of ancient history. Seashells. The complete story. When I was recovering in hospital a few years ago from a heart attack, John was kind enough to visit me. He brought along as a gift one of his complete books. This one was titled The Complete Book of Sex. Yes, it was a lovely thought. But parts of me were still hooked up to machines. And sex was the last thing on my mind. Speaking of sex, well, sort of. Amelia refers to her days in primary school when her dad used to coach the chess team, used to pick me up from school used to know all the mothers and the kids who were brothers and sisters. The mums and some of the teachers used to flirt with him, and he'd flirt back. Certainly, John was known for a bit of flirting at the tennis club, notably with our vice president, Caroline Hayward, who's a Facebook friend of Julia's, by the way. When John could no longer drive to tennis, I used to pick him up and take him home. But one day I couldn't do so and asked Pete Turner if he could take John home. Pete willingly obliged. But the story of that journey reminded me that Amelia takes with Simon. Dad is driving me to Gemma's house. Gemma lives 3 miles away. It's a fair distance, enough to be annoying. We could ride bikes, if either of us would be seen dead on a bike. But it's impossible with buses, and walking takes hours. We tried once. So Dad's driving, like he often does. I notice we're on the freeway. Dad, I say, what are you doing? I'm driving you. What does it look like? You're supposed to be taking me to Gemma's. Gemma's, Dad mutters. You're going the completely wrong way. You're stressing me out, Dad says. Where do I go? I don't know. To Gemma's, I say. And eventually, they make it to Gemma's via a circuitous and stressful route. A bit like Pete Turner taking John home to Southlake after tennis, when John had deteriorated even more than we thought, and they got hopelessly lost. As I said in a recent Twitter post, Before You Forget is not only a great read, but it also makes an important contribution to our understanding more about Alzheimer's and its effects on families and friends. And on that note, I'll finish where Before You Forget finishes, with the voice of Amelia. I know that one day Dad is going to forget me. Forget everything we did together. Maybe forget I ever existed. It's like watching the tide go out. The waves lose their strength bit by bit, and the water recedes into the ocean. It washes the shores a bit less and a bit less, until before you know it, you can walk on the hard sand that's been compacted, and you can swim in flat water. You don't really notice it's happening. If you go away and come back a few hours later, it's obvious. But if you're sitting by, but not if you're sitting by watching. But today, he might remember me. He may not remember the sunsets, and soon he won't remember the pelicans. But he knows that I'm his daughter, and he's my dad. And if that happens today, that's enough. Julia and Annie, congratulations on this terrific book.
Oh, so many people to thank, and Corey, thank you so much. No idea how to do anything like that, and I was like, Corey, can we do it? And you guys were so generous, and I thank you so much for making it happen. thank you too to Leslie and the team for making this space and hosting this event, and for being such supporters of you know, we who make literature for children. This is our home and our haven and our refuge. Laurie, Annie and I didn't have any questions who we wanted to launch the book, and it was just so fabulous because Laurie was so much part of our lives and of John's life. And one of the last, John was able to do word associations until fairly recently, and I'd go, Laurie, and he'd say, mellifluous. And thank you in absentia to Penguin Random House. They have really got behind this book, and they've done a beautiful cover, and they're going to be pushing it at Bologna, and so I couldn't be happier. And they also made an actual book out of a rather messy manuscript. So grateful for that. I want to thank and acknowledge some of the other people who are here tonight. Alan Giannoni, where are you? Alan Giannoni's over here. He was my high school English teacher. He was so encouraging of my creative writing. He gave these amazingly innovative classes. I remember having an argument about the literary qualities of the Ballad of John and Yoko and things like that. He also wrote me this amazing reference when I was actually kicked out of school. And on the basis of that reference alone, I got jobs for years afterwards. And he also failed to mention that I'd been expelled by Brendan Davies. Those of you from Kelmscott High School will remember that, which was an early lesson in positive framing. Thank you. And he also won the West Australian High School Principal of the Year award last year. Judith Ridge, guru of literature for young people, is here from Sydney. Where are you, Judy? There. And this is her first time to Western Australia, and I'm guessing it's not going to be her last, because she's already fallen in love with our sunset. Suzanne Gervais, the energetic force of nature, is also here from our Squibby family in Sydney. Squibby is the Society for Children's Books and Young People, but we like to call it Squibby. And so it's really lovely to have her here as well. I'm really sorry that Katrina Leventz, the art teacher from John Curtin, who gave a really good and thorough critique of the novel and made sure I got all the arty bits right, isn't here tonight, but Anne McCorkey is, and I'm very grateful for that, to get that right, and I'm sure they relate to one of the themes of the novel, which is art as saviour. I'm so thrilled to have so many of my colleagues here, not only from the writing community, but the WA Country Health Service where I work now, former colleagues from Parliament, you'll be getting a pink slip tomorrow, teaching, and also from my somewhat thingy career in law or law studies or whatever it is that I've been doing for the last 6 years. Very, very grateful to have Graham and Bev Smith here. Graham is John's oldest friend in the world, and until fairly recently, John could recite every move in the Year 7 Chess Championship final that Graham beat him at. Gemma, we've already mentioned Gemma. I used her name in the novel with permission. She's actually not anything like the character in the book, but you heard her talking, Annie talking about her in the video. She and her family are here tonight, Tessa and Farrell, and they lost their mum 2 weeks ago, so it's really special to have them here. I want to thank all of you who provided us with nibblies and drinks and other random things, especially Bryony Dunstan. And hang on, I've missed a thing. Anyway, I'll come back to it. Bryony should have been an events coordinator because she, as well as organising the food tonight, she threw a surprise party for me and Nigel a couple of years back, and the theme was All You Need Is Love, which is a subject to which I'll return, and it remains one of the most lovely things that anybody's ever done for me. And speaking of Nigel, I want to thank him for his daily love and kindness. He's also really good at lugging. So now to Before You Forget, and why it's here and why it matters to me and to others, I think, and I'm probably got a bit of an idea of that now. But the last 5 or 6 years have been personally very trying, to put it mildly, and if I was going to describe it accurately, I would have to use all of my Kelmscott words. I learned so much about human nature, good and bad. And someone wisely said the best thing about the worst time in your life is that you see the true colours of everybody, and that is so true. Sometimes the stress has resulted in a fondness for fermented grape juice, periods of insomnia, and acting out in extreme and self-destructive ways, such as deciding to do a law degree. But these years were the impetus for writing the novel, and indeed made the writing of the novel essential for our psychic survival. The last 5 years have also made me appreciate more than I ever have the value of human connection. All of you here, and more who are not here, have sustained me and Annie in large ways and in small, practically, emotionally, spiritually, virtually or in person, and I truly cannot thank you enough. I would like to make special mention of Morgan Yasminchek, Paul Webster and Sean Salmon, who have supported John constantly throughout his illness and keep doing so even though he no longer knows them. But the star of this show is Annie. I wrote this novel after seeing not only the torment that her father's condition caused her, but also seeing how her loss for the most part was not acknowledged or understood by others. There was no place for her in all the dealings with care providers, doctors, the state administrative tribunal, and all the horrible and unnecessary contests we went through over John's care. Her voice and her perspective, her relationship with her father were not heard, seen, or valued. The system for dealing with people with early onset in a framework of aged care is woefully ill-equipped for younger people in general, and especially for younger people who still have children and teenagers at home. This has to change. Annie has become a strong, self-reliant, clear-sighted and determined young woman because of what has happened to her. And I'm so proud of her. Woo! And I know that John would be too. But I wish things had been better for her. And I hope it will be better for the thousands of young people who are watching their parents' deterioration, for those who lose parents while they are still alive, the living loss of early onset Alzheimer's disease and its many variations and permutations. So, this is what I hope Before You Forget will provide: an inside view on a little understood disease and its effects on those living with it. I also hope it's a cracking good read. So I remember pitching Before You Forget to Jane Godwin, former publisher at Penguin, at our study retreat in Rottnest, and saying, it's about a girl whose dad has early onset and her best friend gets anorexia and her mum starts drinking and she's obsessed with 9/11. It's a comedy. I can't believe she bought it. Anyway, there is comic relief in the shape of a small and crazy Jack Russell named Hector. He is closely modelled on a small and crazy Jack Russell named Hector, who, despite regularly escaping out of doors onto busy roads, eating unidentifiable items from the yard and bins at Brightwater, pumping poor patient Labradors until he does himself an injury, or stealing and eating glad wrap sandwiches from people's handbags. In spite of all this, Hector manages to be the kind of dog that people look at and say, "Oh, isn't he sweet?" This novel reveals the truth. Thank you all so much for being here, for sharing this journey with us, and I hope the novel finds a treasured place in